Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be working on a couple of very rusty Rivarossi 040s. I found these on eBay a couple months ago, around the same time I bought the rusted out RS3. It came from the same seller, so it was probably out of the same collection, which I assume was involved in a flood. Anyway, these locomotives look pretty bad, so we'll see if we can revive them. Rivarossi motors are pretty tough, so these engines might just spring back to life, but they're certainly not going to run. I can almost guarantee you that. Oh my goodness. So here is unit number 1, and as you can see, this thing is just severely rusted. There's just so much corrosion over the entire drive. I mean, this is really bad. I've never seen a locomotive this rusty, maybe with the exception of the RS3. This one might be worse. Anyways, this is one of 2 locomotives, so there's another one. I can't remember if the other's as bad, but this thing is definitely in need of some help. It's going to be really interesting to see if this will be repairable. Here's the second unit, and although it's pretty rusty as well, it's certainly not as bad. I mean, like, this is not good, but I've definitely seen a whole lot worse. So between these 2 units, hopefully one of them will be repairable. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think that there's any possibility that these will turn over, but we could try to give them some power just for kicks and see if they'll do anything whatsoever. It's going to be fascinating to see if either of these locomotives start up. I'm going to start with the one in slightly better condition. I think there's maybe a 10% chance this one might at least get some power. Let's try it out. Well, nothing so far. Oh. Well, no matter what, it doesn't seem to want to run. I did see some current draw for a brief second there, and then a little bit of the flavor country leaked out of it, so I don't really know what the story with that is. Hopefully that's not one of the windings giving up the ghost. Either way, this is certainly going to be a challenge if there is any hope in reviving it. Now let's test out the one which is even worse. What do you think the chances of a locomotive like this picking up power are? I'd say maybe like 0.0001%. Let's just try it out for kicks. You see how it has current draw? So I'm not going to keep feeding it voltage because I'm going to end up burning out one of the windings, but somehow power is getting to the motor, and we can see it's not a full short circuit, so there is a winding in here which is being energized through the wheels. I don't know how power is getting through all of this, but that is remarkable, and it's actually kind of a good sign because it means that the electrical system is still working to some extent, miraculously. Anyways, I'll try to derust these locomotives and see if we can get at least one of them running again. Now, I've got 2 different locomotives, and I've got 2 different techniques in mind which I want to try on both of them. The first one is tried and true. It's just submerging the locomotive in vinegar. I've been successful doing this twice before. The last time was with the rusted out RS3. To be fair, the motor did completely disintegrate after being in the vinegar, so I don't know if it was because of that or because it was so rusted, but we'll try that again with this one and see if it can get these parts unseized. But as for this locomotive over here, I want to try a technique which a lot of people have been suggesting for a long time now. It requires a special tool which I recently purchased, and I'll show you all right now. And here it is, an ultrasonic parts cleaner. I can't tell you how many comments I've received from people telling me that I should get one of these, so I finally took the plunge and bought a fairly industrial unit here. I've never used one before, so this is going to be a first, but from what I can tell, this is a pretty nice machine. This one right here even has an exhaust, so when you're done cleaning, you can put a bucket below it and just drain the fluid without having to take the machine elsewhere, which I think is a pretty nice feature. So I'll try it out here. I'll just put the locomotive in the basket and add some water and dish soap. As I've read online, this is what you're supposed to use. I really don't know if I'm using this thing correctly, but there's only one way to find out if this is a good idea or not. By the way, this is in no means a recommendation because I don't really know if the ultrasonic cleaning is going to affect the windings on the motor. I've tried to disassemble super rusty motors in the past and it's never ended well, so I'm willing to put this one up as a liability here. Now, according to the instructions this thing came with, which are frankly just about useless, it says to fill the tank up to the correct level, but it doesn't even have a fill line or any specifications for how much liquid you're supposed to put in here. So what I was reading online is it's usually about 2/3 full, so I've gotten about that right there. Went a little over just to be safe. And then right here it says for extensive cleaning including rust, which is obviously what we have. You want to run this thing at the top temperature, which would be 175 freedom units. I'm not going to run it anywhere near there because I think that will pretty much do the motor in without a doubt, but I might bring it up to 120 for a full 30-minute cleaning cycle. So I guess we'll just plug this thing in and kind of hope for the best here. I don't love the situation, but gotta start somewhere with it. I believe we have to wait for that light to shut off. In the meantime, we'll go take care of the other locomotive. Just as before, we've got the good old French fry flavor here. Okay, it's a while later. The heating light is still on, but I imagine this thing is getting pretty close. Yeah, we're already at about 100 degrees, and for anybody who's wondering what that is in Celsius, it's about 40, so you know, it's warm. Now, I don't really know if you're supposed to go any higher with that, but I'd rather just you know, use too low a temperature and get less optimum results than go too high and end up doing some serious damage, because when you play stupid games you do win stupid prizes. So anyways, I think now that this thing is getting pretty close, I'll crank the timer and see what this does. Alright, so it's now the next day. I had to shut this thing down last night because it is a bit of a noisy unit, but even in the 15 minutes that it did run, I had a quick look at the locomotive and it looked like it had made some progress on it. So this morning I started this back up, ran it through a 30-minute cycle, which it just completed. So now let's have a look and see what kind of job it did here. It feels a lot hotter than it should be. Whoa. Okay, so the temperature doesn't seem to stay where it should. That's way higher than it's supposed to be. Yikes. Well, I guess we'll just drain it and try to get the engine out here. Just look at that water. Definitely must have done something here. Oh, wow, look how much rust it got at. That's incredible. Let me show this under some better light. So just comparing this to what we saw yesterday, you can see almost all of the rust on the bottom here is gone. You can actually see the motor. Still a little bit of rust scaling here, but I mean, like, this just looks so much better, especially right here. It made a massive difference. It looks to have chewed away at a lot of this kind of paper stuff as well, so that's nice to see. Unfortunately, it does look like the plastic or the top layer of paint was starting to bubble a little bit, which is really unfortunate. I don't know why it got so much hotter than it was supposed to. At least in terms of removing rust, it looks like it's done a very nice job. And now that it's exposed these bolts and so on, I think we can actually take it apart and see if we can get it running. Headlights kind of seen better days there. I'm curious to see if that still works. But either way, here's, you know, the inside of the drive, and it's really not looking all that bad. I think this is a big chunk of rust here, though. Yep. That's just wild. And, you know, there's still little bits and pieces here and there, but definitely did make some progress on it. So the main goal now is going to be to see if we can get this thing unseized. The whole drive does feel like it is quite locked up, so I don't know if I should just maybe try to get something on the drive shaft and just try to wiggle it back and forth, maybe with a little bit of lubricant. We'll try some different things, see if we can get it to turn over a little. Is that all just rust build up there? See, it looked like that was covered, but it's just little bits of rust. Yeah, so the whole drive is starting to loosen up. The bigger question is going to be, is that motor still savable? The angle of this motor does not make this part too easy. So that screw is not so inclined to back out, which is really not that surprising. So I think I'm just going to give this a good squirt of the old liquid wrench. This is not something you should ever do to a locomotive. You know, this could mess up a commutator real bad. But with one this bad, I'm okay taking my chances. So let that soak in, and then in the meantime I'll go and see how the vinegar locomotive is doing. So it does look to have made a bit of a difference. Let's have a closer look here. Yeah, that's definitely looking a little bit better. Might not be as nice as the ultrasonic version, but I do see progress. It's got some baking soda water. Just let that fizzle out a little. So for this unit right here, you can see the shell is definitely looking a little bit cleaner. The shell's also loose, which I don't remember it being that way yesterday, so that's kind of interesting. Just as before, let's see if we can crack it open. That wasn't so bad. I mean, to be fair, this engine wasn't as bad to begin with, but you know, it's looking okay inside here. Let's see if we can get this plate off. Lots of rust deposits. Got that one freed up. Just as before, motor is not doing anything. So I think just as I did with the other one, I'll just soak this one down with a little bit of liquid wrench and hope for the best. In the meantime, I'll go fetch the other locomotive and see if anything has freed up. So here it is, and yeah, it's not turning. I'm gonna try giving it a few taps just to try to break up any rust barrier. I think I'll try to find a pair of pliers and wrench on this a little bit. You have to be really careful though, because what can happen is the drive shaft can separate from the armature, or the other thing I've experienced when disassembling these after they've been rusted is that the commutator separates from the drive shaft or armature. You can find proper pliers, but these are super dull, so I'm not too worried about them shaving the end of this off. Okay, well that's some good news right there. I think we're making some progress here. Oh man, that's not so good. Just gonna throw on some safety goggles here and we'll give it a little. Just been slowly wiggling this thing back and forth and it feels like it's about to free up. Yep. It's not happy, but it is getting there. I just went and quickly flushed this thing out with some water because as I was getting this freed up, you know, it was grinding up little pieces of rust caught between the magnet and the armature. So by flushing it out, just got all that removed, so it's now turning properly with only one side. Once we get both on, hopefully we'll be centered enough to actually rotate without contacting the magnet. It's not 100% hopeless. You can see the two spots where the brushes were caught up against the commutator. Probably concealed some moisture for a long period of time. Okay, I think that's looking about as good as I can get it. Unfortunately, it did etch into the commutator a bit, so there's not much I can do about that. What we can do something about, though, is these brushes. I want to see if we can get those out. Oh, yeah, maybe. That doesn't look that bad. I just went and quickly found a spare brush. If you can believe it, this at one point looked like that, and I believe it's made out of copper, which is why it's gone all green like that. Anyway, we'll try to reassemble this motor and see if it will work. I'm not super optimistic about it, but, you know, let's give it a chance. Okay, this is either going to be an epic moment or a fail. Let's give it plenty of voltage here. Yeah, it got power. Nothing so far, not all that surprising to me. Yeah, I'm not under the impression that this thing has any continuity. Let's do the old ratchet test. There is continuity. That's weird. So what's the deal here? I'm under the impression that this brush is not doing its job. Yeah, it's not springing back. You see that? And this time we got spark. It's a long while later, and I've just been kind of rolling up little pieces of paper towel like this. Just kind of getting them in between the arms of the armature. And I've just been turning them over, and what this has been doing is it's just been kind of cleaning out a lot of the loose pieces of rust which have been in here. Anyways, the whole thing's turning a lot better, so I'm going to try to put the cap back over it, and I'm really hoping that this will get it running. Yeah, it actually seems to be turning half decent now. Let's try her out. Oh, it's trying. Haha, look, it's running! That is not a happy motor. It sounds like bacon is cooking inside it, but hey, it's revving up. Okay, well, I'm amazed. I didn't think I'd ever see this motor run again. And so far, it's not heating up, so, I think I should do a little more cleaning on it. But, yeah, I mean, we've even got low speed on it now. So now that the motor seems to be in somewhat operational condition, I think we'll focus on the rest of the frame here, see if we can get the rust off of this. I might throw it back in the ultrasonic parts cleaner to see if it can kind of tidy some of this up. But, I think that the motor is probably the most difficult part to get going again, so hopefully the rest of this won't be all that bad. Just as I'm cleaning this up too, I'm noticing that this one is not at the same angle as this, so not only is this thing rusted really bad on this side, it's also bent in a way it definitely should not be. Hopefully it doesn't break. There's not much metal left there, that's for sure. Just noticing right here, part of the rods for the valve gear are just completely gone. There's nothing there. So I might end up just removing this part, honestly. It's not like we really need it. Yeah, in fact, the metal for this whole structure is gone, so I'm just going to remove this part. Just went and quickly rinsed all of this off, and it's looking a lot better, so I'll let that dry. Unfortunately, in the process, I ended up breaking this off, so we've got this wire for the light just hanging here. And I really wish I hadn't done this, because trying to solder onto that is not going to be a treat. Now, let's probably test out this light before we go soldering anything, because I think there's a pretty good chance it might not even work. Look at that! Well, I'll be darned, the light still works. I mean, the ground connection, I think, is pretty much gone, but when you put it directly on the bulb, it does light up. Let's see if I can get it out of here without breaking it. I think the dissimilar metals did not help this. Alright, I soldered a new wire onto the light, so now you can see it's starting reliably. So I think at this point we can start to put this locomotive all back together. Okay, I've managed to walk that screw back in there, so I'm going to try to solder this back on now. Oh! Hey, look at that! Uh-oh. I don't know if you can see that, but occasionally something keeps arcing inside there. I don't know what it is, but just as long as the smoke isn't coming from the motor, I'm a happy camper. Yeah, see, it's doing it again. Like, what is that? In all the years I've worked on model trains, like, I've never seen something like that happen. Like, what the heck is that? I'm guessing that wire, which feeds to the motor, it probably corroded through and maybe it's shorting on something, but I just don't understand what exactly in there is burning. Do I need to open this up and see why it's doing that? Oh man, that doesn't look so good. It appears little bits of rust are maybe making contact with the frame and then they're burning away the plastic insulator. Hopefully if I just clean this up a little bit, we won't have that problem. Got all that all sealed up again. Let's see if that made any difference. Yeah, it definitely did. That's running a lot better. Okay, that's good to see. So now all I gotta do, get this wire somehow soldered on there, and put the shell on, and hopefully we'll be in business. Okay, well, looks like it's all back together. Might give the wheels a quick cleaning, and then we can test it. But I think first I want to try to get the other one running too. I think that should do good by this locomotive. Now let's see if we can get the other one moving. Now, despite this one not looking as good as the other one, I feel a little less confident that it will get moving just because, you know, I did see some smoke come out of there, so that's not so good. Anyways, I'll try just doing what I did before. I know these are not the right tool to be using for this, but I prefer not to strip out the screw. I mean, it's getting the job done. Can't really argue with that result. Yeah, this is a slightly different model. Contacts are different. Oh, it's completely locked up. There's no doubt about that. Okay, that one was way easier to open. And both of the brushes still have some spring in them, so that's a good sign. The armature itself, it's completely locked. And commutator has seen better days too. So let's go give it a little tap, see if we can get it to move up and down. Do what I did before, just keep wiggling it until it slowly starts to give way. I'm fine just taking my time here, getting this to free up. This one is already starting to kind of give way. So I think just as before, I'm going to go run this under some water, just try to kind of flush out all the loose bits of metal in here so it starts turning a bit better. But this is the main hurdle. Alright, so I just went and quickly flushed out the motor as I did before, and as you can see, this is turning a lot better. Can't tell you how much crap came out of this thing. And just as before, I ran some paper towel through it, and you can see there was a lot of metal dust in there and all sorts of other junk. So got all of that out. It's turning a lot better. So I think at this point, I'll try to get the commutator all cleaned up and see if, you know, this will work. I'll be honest, that brush is not looking so great, but I might let it ride on this one. We'll see. A lot of people are still asking me about this tool right here. It's just a fiberglass pencil. You can find these on Amazon or eBay, maybe even at a hardware store. But either way, I'll throw a link to one down in the description. And if you buy one, it actually helps the channel a little bit at no extra cost to yourself. So I do appreciate that. Well, it's really just this bottom part that doesn't look that good. I wonder if I just kind of sand that out. Oh yeah, this is still usable. Just wind it around until this little notch lines up with that. We should just be able to pop this whole thing back into place. Okay, let's see if this darn thing will start. Oh, we're locked up. Might need more cleaning. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, it's trying. I don't think I secured this well enough. Okay, well I got the top a little more secure, and as you can see, it's running quite a bit better. Still sounds a little off, but this thing has got some torque, I think probably enough to make this thing run, so I'm pretty happy with that. This is just such a testament to how well made Rivarossi motors are. They took the manufacturing of their motors very seriously, and time has certainly proven it as a good choice. I'll move on to sorting all of this out. Now, I was messing around with this a bit, and it's mostly unseized, but I do want to clean up all of this a little bit, so I think I'll go bring this to a sink, just kind of scrub off some of the rust, and then oil it up and just try to get it turning completely free, because it is jamming up a little in certain places. Alright, so I got this thing cleaned up a little bit better, and usually when, you know, you can turn something over this easily without applying any weight, it's a good sign that it's not binding and that everything is turning properly. This is certainly a simplified version of the earlier Rivarossi design. You can see, you know, there's not much in the way of the valve gears setup, so they were definitely cheapening these things up over the years, but it still seems like a quality product. Now, I did pull out the pin here. Unfortunately, the wire to the motor has fallen off, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna solder a wire to that pin right there, and that should make lives a little bit easier in terms of rewiring this thing, because trying to run a wire through here is just gonna be kind of tricky. I don't really see a problem with running a wire, you know, out here, so let's try to get this thing back together if we can. Let's do a quick test as I did with the other one to see if the light actually works on this. This one looks a lot better. Okay, so there we go. 2 lights and 2 motors brought back to life. Really all we need to do is wire that back in and should be good to go. Just gonna go quickly clean up this plate for the bottom. There's a mixture of grease and rust. The grease isn't a bad thing, it probably protected the metal, but I would like to get rid of more of that rust. Okay, I got this all cleaned up. It's looking a lot better. It's insane just how much pitting the rust did on this metal, but it's still structurally sound. It will definitely hold these wheels in place. I also tried to dry this out a little bit better, so hopefully the rust won't come back. I'll throw some oil in here over all the important components, so that should keep those safe from rust, as well as lubricate. This locomotive also happens to be missing a screw. I'll go through my spare parts bin and see if I have a replacement for that. Well, I can't seem to locate a good screw for that. I'll probably find one at some point, but I think for now, just focus on trying to get the rest of it all back together here. Luckily, the motor has left a nice enough print. You can tell exactly how it went in before. Put some oil on the screw. That will seep in so that if ever this motor needs to be taken out again, it's not going to be a nightmare. I found this screw in my spare parts bin. I think we'll try it out here. Oh, what a perfect fit. Okay, throw some grease and oil on here. I'm actually gonna clean that worm gear out first and then see if we can get this thing to turn over. Oh. It's a little bit of chatter in there I'd like to fix, but it is running now. That's cool. So now that this thing seems to be running, I think I'll focus on actually wiring the whole thing up. Now, I pulled out this pin right here, and I think that this is going to be a lot easier to solder to because there's no plastic components like there are on this that could melt. So I'll try to put this wire back on the motor, solder this to that, and also solder the wire which goes to the headlight because, as we learned, that still works. So it's going to be some interesting wiring, that's for sure. Top part could also use a screw of some sort. Managed to find a screw of the right size off camera, so that's nice and secure now. Anyways, I think I'll move on to cleaning up the wheels, and then we can actually go test both these engines. So with both these locomotives all put back together, let's bring them over to the track and see if our efforts have paid off. I'm going to start off with the one which was in slightly better condition in the beginning. I think it's just a little bit more fair to say that this one will probably go. Oh yeah, no problem. It's not got perfect electrical connectivity, but it's running just fine. Ah, look at her go. See, there's a wide open throttle, headlights shining nice and bright, very good. Let's see what the slow speed's like. Yeah, it leaves a little to be desired there, but I'm very happy with that, you know? This was a completely junked locomotive, and here it is riding the rails again. Now onto the locomotive, which was in far more questionable condition. I think that this one is going to be a little more interesting. And luckily, since we're running it on this side, it doesn't look like any valve gears are missing. I just need to run it on this side all the time, I think. Anyway, I'm giving it power. We've got current draw, high current draw. That's not moving. Oh, this could be bad. Oh yeah, okay, there we go. We got it moving. Is it gonna go into forwards? Oh, it's rough. I just find this very strange because it had plenty of gusto when the wheels were being cleaned, which, you know, requires a fair bit of torque. Now it just does not seem to want to go. I was really hoping not to have to open this locomotive up again, but yeah, it's the way she goes sometimes. Yeah, the motor's locked up. So I just went and quickly cleaned out the motor again, and as you can see, quite a bit of stuff came out. There were some chunks in there, so my guess is just running it kind of loosened some crap up, and it got caught between the armature and the magnet. So hopefully now that that's all cleaned out, this will run a little bit better. It's certainly turning a lot better, so anyways, we'll just get it back into place here and see if it will run. Okay, 2 times the charm here. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's moving. We'll do forwards. Yes, it will. It's a little rough, though. Wow, this thing really likes to put up a fight. I'm just gonna let it run a bit. We'll see if it will power through. Well, I think it's beginning to power through it. The only weird thing is it sometimes just randomly cuts out, but it's definitely picking up some RPMs. Oh yeah, it's really revving now. See, just randomly cuts out. And there's no current draw, so it's not like the motor is stalling. It's really weird. I haven't seen that before. This time it doesn't want to start back up. So I just opened this thing up to figure out what the electrical problems were, and you know, I was looking over this, which is basically just an electrical connection to ground, which inside this motor might not even be that great for obvious reasons. But moreover, look at this. Those plates are separate. So I think that might be why it's having inconsistent power. Maybe with running a ground wire through here or something, it might solve it. Something's got to change there. Alright, so I just quickly added this ground wire which runs from the chassis right back here, and I just soldered that directly onto the piece which holds the brush spring, so I think that that's going to fix it. I will say that this is probably a good example of why you shouldn't buy a locomotive that's been in a flood. Like, it's just insane how many new problems are brought to the table when you're dealing with something with rust. You know, it's not too difficult in most cases to put parts back together, but when those parts cease to exist, things become a little more challenging. Anyone who's restored a car in the Rust Belt can probably relate to this. Anyways, we'll throw this all back together here and see if this finally fixes it. Okay, let's see. Is it going to be 3 times the charm? Yes, it will. We got forwards. Well, it doesn't sound amazing, but it is running. Oh, that's awesome. The current draw is in check, and that's the important one. That means that this thing hopefully won't burn up. Well, I don't think I'm going to be winning any creeping competitions with this thing, but the fact it can creep is impressive considering how it started off. So anyways, now that this thing seems to be running and the other one seems to be running, why don't we run them both on both tracks of the layout and just have some fun with them. Do a little bit of a race here. Back when I filmed the Rusty RS3 video, a lot of people were saying I should have left more of the rust patina on the locomotive because it's kind of a cool look, and you know, I tend to agree. So with this one, I just left all the rust on the shell that the ultrasonic cleaner didn't get. And I know the ultrasonic cleaner overheated this thing and it made the paint bubble, but you can see a lot of it has just gone right back into place. So, you know, the paintwork doesn't look too bad in my opinion. It's just a little bubbly, unfortunately, where the patina is. But as for the rest of it, I think it remains to have a very cool look. Well folks, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I certainly had a lot of fun working on both of these little Rivarossi locomotives, and I'm overall very happy with the results. I know they're far from perfect, but I think considering the condition that they both started in, it's remarkable that they can run whatsoever. I'll be honest, when I cracked open those armatures and saw what kind of shape they were in, I was pretty skeptical those motors would ever start again. But lo and behold, here they are riding the rails once again, possibly for the first time in maybe 30 years. Who really knows? But either way, I think I'll call that a success. And with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching.